The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
What's going on, everybody? Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen with you here on a Monday on the Full Court Press. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. A big weekend that was in high school, college, the pros. Doing our best to recap all of it here on the show. We spent last hour talking about high school football, top 25 matchups in college football, the NFL. This hour, spending the most of the time talking about Utah State specifically for what they did in football and in basketball. The top 25 polls are out in football. Utah State, understandably, not really moving there, not getting any votes. But there are a couple other Mountain West teams that are, as we talked about. Boise State moved up. San Diego State fell out of the top 25 with their loss. They're still getting votes. Air Force getting votes. And in the coaches poll, Wyoming is getting one vote in that poll. For college basketball, Utah State is still in the top 25. They didn't have any movement in the AP poll. Utah State still at number 17 in the college poll. In the AP poll, the coaches poll has not yet been released, but the notable teams on USU's schedule are in the top 25. Florida lost to Florida State, and they fell 9 places, so they're just a little bit above Utah State at number 15. St. Mary's is right on USU's heels. They're at number 18, and LSU is at number 23. Utah State plays all 3 of those teams on the schedule. And another school that USU will face at some point this season, San Diego State, receiving a couple of votes after going into Provo and beating BYU 76-71.
Yeah, that game was actually pretty competitive. I watched that one on TV. Man, that Jake Toulson kid can play. I can see why everybody wanted him. He's a good ball player. He's just smart. He's fundamentally sound. TJ Haws and him on the court together is a very, very dangerous duo. And then when you get Yoli Childs on the court,
comes back.
Yeah,
that's going
to be a very good basketball team. Utah State deals with them on December 14th at Vivint Smart Home Arena in the Beehive Classic. But I was impressed with BYU. I really, really was. I thought that they look like a pretty quality basketball team. And San Diego State looks good, too.
Utah State basketball will take on Denver tomorrow. So this is probably not as exciting of a week as it was a week ago. The games Utah State play, the teams they face this week aren't really notable teams that a lot of people know about. North Carolina, A&T, and Denver. But this is where Utah State can fine-tune rotations. They can fine-tune minutes and different lineup opportunities. So these are still important games for Utah State to play.
And that's the thing is that when you look at this, LSU, because, they go to Jamaica next weekend. So really, those no-name games, if you want to call it that all stops next Saturday next Friday, actually, because you get North Texas. You get
UT San Antonio.
Yeah, we got UT San Antonio, but then you got North Texas and LSU in Jamaica, which are, those are no gimme games. You come back and you got to go to St. Mary's. You still got to go to Florida. For the next 3 weeks, after this week, the next 3 weeks are compiled of ranked teams in each week. Okay, there's LSU, there's St. Mary's, there's Florida.
Florida isn't until December 21st.
Oh, so it's a few weeks after. Sorry, I'm looking at the week wrong.
Yes. Because, after the St. Mary's, you're right into conference play at San Jose and then at home against Fresno
State. And then you're at, or I guess you got BYU in there as well. Lake. Mm-hmm. And then, do they get South Florida at
South
Houston?
Florida.
God,
that's in Houston.
It's a freaking brutal schedule, man.
Yeah, they're all traveling all over the place.
But again, there's some tough games there. So, yeah, this whole no-name schedule thing of, we're playing Denver and North Carolina A&T. Yeah, look, it's about helping the roster because Coach Smith, I mean, they said it, I mean, as tough as it was to schedule, they actually did a good job of setting it up. This is your fine-tuning time, and then you get into the heavy hitting with some of the more heavyweight teams of LSU and St. Mary's. And I mean, on the road to St. Mary's, you know it's going to be a dogfight. That team has you circled and squared because of last year. BYU wants you as well. They can't wait to have you in Salt Lake City on Vince Arena's court. And then Florida. Look, Florida lost to Florida State. I don't know what that tells you. That's only game one, so we got to really find out if Florida State's really that real or just a pretender. But I mean, you're not out of the woods, and really not even close until conference play starts.
And we'll hear more from Craig Smith, and who else? Did you get a chance to talk to some players?
I did, yeah. So I got Craig Smith. You'll hear from Abel Porter tomorrow. You'll also hear from Alfonso Anderson tomorrow. Alfonso, who is, I mean, he comes in a new guy and has taken some major minutes. And has became one of in that trust box of Coach Smith where, hey, I can put you in big-time minutes in key situations, and I know you'll contribute. Alfonso's been great. I think Alfonso's been really wonderful. Just so cool, calm, and smooth with everything. He doesn't panic. You know, you watch him take a ball up court, you know, whether it's in a quick transition or just, you know, a half-court pace, just everything seems to be in control when Alfonso's on the court.
Yeah, well, in critical minutes in the second half against Montana State.
Well, not only that, but he took 6 free throws to win it, too.
Yes.
Just impressive stuff by Alfonso. And then, of course, you'll hear from Abel, who is he has a steady grip on the starting point guard position. I know people going into the offseason said, well, are they going to look for a new point guard? Are they going to try and look elsewhere? I don't know why they would in the first. I thought Abel did a great job last year.
Why mess with what's working?
Yeah, I think Abel's doing a fine job this year. Craig Smith, for how deep his bench is, has really handled the rotation pretty darn well. I mean, think about this, Eric. Diogo is third leading scorer on the team, or second, and he's coming off the bench. The guy's coming off the bench, and he's your third leading scorer.
I'm a big Brito fan.
Yeah. Yep.
Big Diogo Brito
And how
fan.
about Justin Bean as of late, too? The kid who had surgery on his face after a Montana State game, turns around, plays in Weber State. That putback dunk on a Brock Miller missed three was just saucy.
Well, it was great defense on one end, and he hustles down the court and makes a big play on the other.
Yeah, and he did a couple of times on that defensively. Sam Merrill. Look, Sam Merrill continues to prove that he is definitely, if you want to wrestle that Mountain West Conference Player of the Year defending championship away from him, good luck.
Well, and defenses are focusing on him, and what he's doing is he's finding other guys as they're collapsing on him.
And it's trusting
he's finding
them
the
too.
open guy.
And it's new guys, too. He's not just trying to look for a veteran guy. He's finding new guys to do the job as well. And that's a lot of trust coming from a kid, from your captain. I think Sam Merrill's been so impressive lately. My gosh, you watch him last year and you say, how can he get any better? And then you watch him this year and you say, yep, he's better in everything. I know it's weird to say,
but more complete.
But he's just, defensively, he's just so sound and aware. It's almost like he's seen everything now. Nothing takes him off guard, right? He has this photographic memory of defenses and the way things run, and you can see players doing this and that. And you just see him, get the spots before anybody else can, offensively or defensively, and it makes for a productive play for them, offensively and defensively. He's still, in my mind, and it's a runaway right now, the best player in the conference, without a doubt. Practice today, he was very vocal, and that's another thing about Sam is you kind of know him to be that quiet guy, but then you see him on the court, and he's so vocal. I mean, that place was loud Friday night. We were 5 minutes into that game. Weber State was already running their tails out of the gym because they just couldn't stand it anymore. And at one point, it was so loud that Sam Merrill's trying to communicate with Alfonso Anderson. And Alfonso, I thought he was confused on what Sam was saying. It was that Alfonso couldn't hear Sam at all. And they were like, you and me distance away. And Alfonso couldn't hear anything. And so finally, Sam, physically directed him where to go. That's leadership. Hey, look, I know you can't hear me and you're not used to this, so I'm just going to help you get there. And he did. And I mean, it's just awesome what Sam's doing and the way Coach Smith has this team running You go from emotional win in game 1, right? And then you have that rivalry game in game 2. He says he's worried about this game in game 3 because game 1's jitters, game 2 is a rivalry game, game 3 is like, oh, Denver. Okay, let's play Denver.
True, you can't let a team like this kind of sneak up on you.
Yeah, you can't.
I also thought it was good to see Roche and Clay get involved.
Yeah, I know they didn't get a lot.
But they got minutes.
Yes.
These are guys that have been away from the game for a bit. They're easing them back in. It's a blowout. You can afford to play these guys.
What do you think about Kuba getting as much time as he has in Dorius and those guys over Clay and over Roche? I'm kind of surprised.
A little surprised, but...
it's working, though, so I really can't talk a whole lot.
Kuba is 7 feet tall. 7'2",
yeah,
excuse me. 7'2". So he's got an advantage there that those other guys just do not have. So if you can affect the team because of your size and your length, you as a coach, you got to strongly consider that. And you know what? He's doing a nice job so far. So, nice 2 wins for Utah State to open it up last week. This week, Denver tomorrow, and then North Carolina A&T.
So I thought it was AT&T. I thought he kept saying. But it's A&T, my bad. Yeah, it's 2 dozer off. Like you said, you can't take any nights off. Look, you need to make sure you're ready to go because next week is to win it all. Got some big ones going on. You got to travel a lot, and from here on out, it's just go, 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 go. With little amounts of time to practice, so
true. But these are the games that are the last real chances for USU to fine tune some things.
Yeah,
and for guys to kind of stand out for the coaches if they want to be able to get more minutes on the court.
As good as they've looked, what are 2 things you want to see in these next 2 games that you want to see the Aggies improve upon?
It's hard to say what they can improve upon after what they did to Weber State. But, man, I don't know. Honestly, it's our outside shooting maybe.
Yeah,
be a little bit more consistent there.
I want to see Kuba be more physical. I feel like he's getting pushed around the post a little bit too much. I want to see him push back a little bit. Clay Stahl, you go from Kuba to Clay Stahl, and that big guy's like, oh my gosh, dude, you're a load, right? Roche in there is a load to try to move around.
Yeah, true. Those guys are more physical.
And I know he's got to put on some meat in the bones, put on some weight a little bit. I'd like to see him not get pushed around. He's getting pushed around way too easily off the block. Get in there and push back, be more fit. Because, look, when you play LSU, St. Mary's, BYU, like Yuli Childs is a tough guy to have to play against. And if you're not physical, he's going to eat you alive because he loves being physical. If you can't take it, it's going to be hard to get minutes on the court in that game.
No, I like that. I think that's a good one. But what we do see is Utah State has some depth at that position. So if it is problematic for Kuba, I think they can throw some other guys in there who, if that's the problem at that center position, if the other opposing guy down low is out physicaling, if that's a word, is being more physical in the post, then Utah State can make a change there and get somebody that'd be harder to push around. So this team has that kind of versatility and depth. So it's a young season, still a lot yet to happen. But reminder, across the hall from us, actually across the glass from us, on our sister station, KVNU Game Day will start tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Al Lewis and Jalen Moore will break it down. Utah State right up until tip-off, giving their analysis and their interviews and their perspective on what's going on with the USU basketball. So that'll start tomorrow at 6, go right up until tip-off, and as soon as the game's over, they'll be back on the air again with KVNU Aggie Call to take your calls and comments about what happened in the Spectrum.
Does this starting lineup that you see right now, will this be the same starting lineup you see in January, yes or no?
No.
Oh.
Because Neemias Queto should be back.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, duh. Sorry. I didn't think that, for whatever reason, just slipped my mind. If Neemias is listening, I'm sorry. He's probably offended right now. So that means Kuba comes off the bench. Boy, that's really going to limit minutes for some guys then after that.
But can you consider that second unit Diogo Brito and Cuba.
And Anderson really coming off the bench too. And Dorius might see some time. I mean, does Dorius see any minutes will be kind of interesting. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. That's a deep, deep bench.
Yes. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. Coming up next year, the Full Court Press. It was also a big game weekend for Utah State football.
Yeah, I just got to ask you, are you okay? I mean, did you make it through? I mean, how many times did you close your eyes or throw something at the wall? Maybe we should have done an over-under on that, too. I mean, that was... whew.
That fourth quarter was a roller coaster. I put a question out on Twitter earlier today. I've got a lot of interesting responses. We'll get into those and hear from Coach Gary Anderson and what he has to say about what happened Saturday at Fresno State. All that's coming up next, right here on the Full Court Press.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
A lot of Aggie fans had, what's the best term to use? Heart trouble?
Yeah.
Late in the fourth quarter, Utah State, they have it first and goal. Can't punch it in. Comes down to fourth, and there's a yard and a half. First they trot out the field goal unit. Then they say they're going to review it. So they all go out. Jalen Warren did not get in. Then Utah State brings back its offensive unit. Fresno State calls a timeout. They go back to the sidelines. Utah State comes back out, and they run a zone read and get blown up. At this point, there's 5 minutes to go.
I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry.
It's still Utah State down by 1.
Yeah.
And so then the debate started to rage about should they have gone for a field goal, take the sure points. What play call should there be? How come Utah State doesn't have a power run game? If you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win. Things like that were what I was seeing on Twitter as the game was happening. But I can't disagree with the idea to go for it on fourth and goal. I do disagree with the play call.
I agree. I agree with your disagreement. When they were going to kick the field goal, I was going to say absolutely that's the right decision. Let Dominic kick it for you and get you the lead. See if your defense can hold on for dear life. And then they decided to go. Not only did they decide to go for it, but they decided to get in the shotgun formation. And Fresno, for however they knew it was coming. I don't know if it was by an audible call or whatever, but like you see them all of a sudden just pack the line, the box, the whole entire thing. I mean, they throw the whole Angie's Kitchen sink at them, and then Carson Terrell,
he got blown up.
I mean, talk about like little giants, that little nerdy kid versus the Cowboys just getting clocked. Poor Carson Terrell couldn't do anything. I mean, it just got clocked.
Well, in the moment, Jordan Love, doing the zone read, tries to hand the ball to Bright, and he wants to pull it back out to do something else. They're so close and so much is happening so quickly. Bright just clamps down on that thing like, I'm not letting this thing go.
Yeah.
So, and why would you? Why would you let go?
Now, hindsight 2020, and we didn't ask Coach because none of us had the guts to ask him. I'm just going to be honest. We're all kind of coward about it. Hindsight 2020, would he have gone for it again? And if he would you have ran the same play or gone something different? Would you, without knowing the result, would you have gone with that same play again? I wondered. I didn't ask him because I didn't have the guts to. I was scared to death. But I wonder if you maybe let Jordan Love make that decision, right, with the ball in his hands. So instead of handing it off, even a zone read, don't even do a zone read. Drop back, throw it, find somebody.
Well, even on the second down play, if Jordan goes on a bootleg and runs it out to the right, no one's beating him to the pylon.
Yeah.
But the question still is, and has been for a while. Why does this team not have a designed play that can get you at least 1
Where you
yard?
stick a 6'6" quarterback on the line of scrimmage and just go like this, right, with the ball. You just take the ball and hand it, put it over the line and say, all right, we're in. I mean, because that's all you need, right, is a ball to cross the goal line. That's all you need. So even if you just take the snap, stand straight up, and put the ball over the head, you're in. It's a touchdown. And Matt didn't do it last year, and they don't do it this year. It's weird.
It is weird.
But
put Caleb Rep in as a lead blocker even to give you some push on the line. Anyway, it's been a problem before. It was a problem again last Saturday night. Granted, the decision to go for the touchdown was the right call. The way the defense was having trouble stopping Fresno, USU needed the touchdown.
Yeah.
Now, the defense comes in and plays spectacular and forces a punt, and Utah State gets great field position, and then they come down and they kick the field goal at the end to win. But that defense was suspect Saturday. Their last two defensive series were good when it really mattered the most. But I'm still concerned about that defense. The offense, the last 2 weeks has looked better. They looked much better Saturday. No interceptions. Much better offensive game for Jordan Love. He had some passes that were incredible. He had a few other plays that maybe if he leads a little bit more, Devin Tompkins doesn't have to slow up to get the ball, or he leads him and hits him in stride, and those are 2 touchdowns right there. But a much better game by Jordan Love.
Yeah, that throw to Jordan Nathan was an NFL throw. I mean, Jordan even knew. Like you look at the far view camera of that play, and there's I think there's 2 guys who are wide open 5 yards apart from each other and about 8 yards apart from Love. Love doesn't even look at him. Love looks straight at Nathan, who's being covered by 3 defenders, hands all over him, and just says, "Oh, what the heck?"
Drops it in the only place where it can be.
Yeah, drops it right in a basket where Jordan Nathan makes and by the way, don't discredit Nathan for the catch.
No,
because that is not an easy catch.
And he went down to the ground hard.
I thought he broke his arm, by the way. I thought he broke his freaking arm.
Oh, we all thought, oh my gosh, we just lost Jordan Nathan.
Oh, man, that was scary. Yeah, and then you saw him come back in, which was great. Yeah, I thought Nathan was just flat out good. Jordan Love was really good. In fact, Coach Anderson, I don't know if I actually have it on there, talked about the offense a little bit and just giving credit to Jordan Love. I don't even know if I have it on there. I probably don't.
But there's a segment here about Anderson talking about the wide receivers who made some great plays.
Yeah.
And we'll hear that now.
They did. There was some contested balls, and we made some catches, which was great to see. The one that Jordan, there's a lot of hands up in the air right there. His hands found a way to get the ball down, and Ciosi's catch in the end zone. He's in again by, I don't know, an inch. And makes a tremendous play and great concentration. And then there was just a number of those catches that were out there that were, nice plays. And Jordan did a nice job of getting the ball out. And it's great to see Jordan, have that success. It's great to see him slap a helmet sticker on ESPN to wrap up College Game Day for Jordan Love. For all he's been through this year and the battles that he's been through. And, it's like I always say, he's never one time batted an eye. It would be easy for him to, again, go to the woe is me card and look at himself and look at the guys around him and this and that. Not even a sniff of that. But to see him have a game like that, especially when there's 50, 60 people and his family and friends and in the stands in that environment, in that setting, it was fun to watch that. So I'm really excited for Jordan, and he'll have a great challenge in front of himself this week with the great defense, and he'll be excited about that. And I know so the wide receivers will be too. And but that's last week, and we've moved on. But again, don't forget that, because it was a special 3.5 hours for Jordan.
He's playing at home. He's got his family nearby, or there. I mean, he grew up not too far from that stadium, maybe an hour away or so. He had a lot of family there. It was a beautiful weather day. All the combinations that you need for Jordan Love to have a great game, and he did.
Yeah, he balled out, and he balled out in the most important times, too, when they really needed him. He came, there was a couple third-long conversions that they needed. Give credit to Mariner. He mentioned Celso Mariner, who was just fantastic all night long. Like, look, Celso Mariner has been kind of like what Julian Edelman is to the Patriots, like that third-down conversion guy. And Brady only spots one guy on third down, and that's Edelman. Used to be Gronk, now it's Edelman. Such as Love and Mariner. Like, he looks at one guy on third down, and it's been Mariner. And Caleb Repp had a really good evening, too.
Yes, he did. 5 receptions for 75 yards.
Oof.
Big game. It spread it around to a lot of different guys who had some big moments. Jalen Warren, we didn't really see him at all in the first half.
Second half comes out, and Fredo's like, who the heck are you,
Yeah,
man?
and this one drive, he was making play after play after play.
Yeah, what was it? I think that was the opening drive of the second half, too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look that up right now. That's a great point that you bring up.
And then he caught the ball out of the backfield as well, and it was just a change-up.
So watch this. Okay, this is coming out of the second half, right? Jalen Warren for 6. Love runs for 4. Love to Warren for 26. Tompkins for no gain. Love runs for 4. Love finds Warren for 5. Warren for 9. Warren for 6, and a score. And Fresno State's like, dude,
Who's this guy?
what are you doing? Get out of here. What's crazy is it almost felt like, do you remember, I think it was in 11, if I remember right, Utah State would have those big leads, and then all of a sudden they just disappear, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was the case here. I mean, we're up 28-14, we're up 28-14 with all the momentum in the world. And then Reyna, by the way, Jorge Reyna played really well, actually, for the most part. And he comes in and he drives his team right back, Phil. Without even blinking an eye, he had that long completion to Cropper for 45 on the ensuing possession, and they cut it, back to a 7-point game. In fact, 28-14. So Utah State scored, the next 14, and then Fresno State scores the next 21. They go on a 21-3 run, and it's because you had that field goal from Eberle. And then Fresno scored another touchdown, and then scored another touchdown. It was just, man, it was a really nutso game. That third quarter was crazy. And the fourth quarter was chaos, but that third quarter, too, people kind of forget how just back and forth that third quarter was. Big plays, penalties, knocking teams out of, position from a second and gettable down to a third and long. And by the way, the refs weren't really that great either.
The referees?
Yeah.
I thought they were pretty good.
There were a couple calls
I thought it was pretty
made
good
me
crew.
wonder.
Fresno shot themselves in the foot a ton. A lot of penalties on the Bulldogs.
Yeah, what did they have, actually?
They had 11 penalties that cost them 108 yards.
Jeez.
That one series late in the second quarter, they just got penalty after penalty after penalty. That was the only thing that really stopped them because USU wasn't stopping them at that point. Whoever had the ball was going to score.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that Fresno, once they had the ball, were not able to score.
Yeah.
But a great offensive performance by USU, but still big concerns in my mind about the defense, particularly the run defense.
Sure, but they came up when they needed to, right?
They did. The last 2 series, the Utah State defense forced 3 and outs and had some big tackles when it mattered.
Yeah, Troy LaFrez Jr. came up with a big stop. Jacoby Wildman actually came up with a really big stop as well.
Shaq Bond had a big hit, knock him out of bounds before he could get to the first down marker.
Yeah, there's a couple of big plays by that defense. And sure, the run defense doesn't look great. I think Wyoming sees that film and says, hey, we know what our game plan is. We know what the blueprint is. Air Force, BYU, Fresno State's kind of taking advantage of it as well. Can Wyoming's a good running team. In fact, I put Wyoming second to Air Force in their ability to be able to run the ball because once they start able to get on a roll with the running game, look, if it's not broken, they're not going to fix it. They're not have to worry about it. They're going to just go with it, right? And if you can't stop one play of their running offense, they're just going to keep running it down your throat. They're very, 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 very physical. You are going to hear Coach Anderson through the next 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever it is, talk about being physical and giving credit to Wyoming for being physical, something that Anderson enjoys because he feels like his team is tested, but he also responds to that really, really well. I don't feel like they responded well to Air Force or BYU in that regard. Better against Fresno, but Fresno's not as near as physical as Wyoming is.
Yeah, to be honest, I've heard that we got to be physical. We got to be physical. I've been hearing that the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I thought that Saturday was the first time that it was a little more physical. It wasn't physical at Air Force. It wasn't physical against BYU. It was a little more physical against the Bulldogs. It will need to be even more against the Cowboys. I put the question out there earlier today, Ajay. I want to get to Coach Anderson's thoughts about the defense, but I want to get to this first. I put this question out earlier today. How much has your attitude about USU football changed after the Aggies' last-second win at Fresno State on Saturday? And going into the game, USU was 6-point underdog, or I guess 5.5 at kickoff. A lot of fans in despair, thinking Mountain West championship is out the window. A bowl may even be out the window. This is not looking good. The trend is not good for USU. So there was a lot of angst among Aggie fans. Utah State wins with the last-second field goal. How are things changed? Here are some of the responses. DJ Ransom says, before the Fresno game, I thought we'd end the season 5-7. I'm now thinking we finish 7-5. Ty Aller says, it's about the same. The Aggies have a lot of strengths and some major deficits. If they can compile their strengths and minimize some of the glaring problems, we can win each of the remaining games. Braden at Third Gen Aggie says, I think they'll make a bowl now. I doubt they would have had they lost. Matt Christensen, who's at Aggies all the way, says they're winning out. Offense is going to roll, and the defense will do enough and make some big plays, and they know they can win close games. And Dom got the monkey off his back. He'll be money. Hashtag Aggies all the way. Scott says improved a bit. First time they've showed any spine all season. That's at Robot Crow 1878. I want to get back to that in a little bit. Hayden Noel at Noel Haid says, it was gut check time for USU football, and they came through. They're tougher than I originally thought. After getting killed by BYU, they could have easily bagged the rest of the season. It was fun to watch that team play. Tristan Boyce says, based solely on USU's performance, I'm feeling 7-5. But based on what happened with Wyoming and Boise State on Saturday, I don't know whether to be more worried about Wyoming or less worried about Boise now. Anything between 6-6 and 8-4 wouldn't surprise me at all. At Utah Stizzle says, just wanted to see them be competitive after a couple blowouts, which they were. The win just gave some hype to see the season going forward. Also said, I think we shut down Wyoming at home. Boise with their backup is very beatable, but Bachmeier likely back by then. Tristan Boyce says, I still have defensive concerns. 1 week we can't stop the run. The next week we do okay against the run, but keep getting gashed for explosive plays. Then we contain those, but can't stop dink and dunk passes. I just want a complete defensive game.
It's fair enough.
So one other said, this is Borendo, Mr. Anderson _93, says the expectation has not and should not change Mountain West champs, or it's not a successful season. ! Padiero says, was disappointed earlier due to lack of execution and timing of both offense and defense. Seeing things come together on offense, which creates some calm. Still worried about defense and holes that can be exploited by other teams, but they showed grit on Saturday.
Well, the optimism is better than it was a week ago.
There's another one, D. Jones. Says, if you recall, I predicted 8 wins before the season started, and I'm sticking with that.
Good for you. Good for you. Stick with it.
True Aggie says, I thought we would have 9 wins. I never saw the complete fail of a loss to BYU coming and underestimated Air Force. Wake Forest was toss-up in my mind.
I 100% agree with that one.
Last one, this is Richard A. Galbraith at Mariners C. I'm so numb to the Aggies right now. We made that kick and I felt nothing. Had we missed that kick, I would have felt nothing.
Wow. Jeez. Well.
So I ask you, Ajay, have your feelings changed about Utah State after that win?
I don't think my feelings really changed after the BYU game. Like, someone called me, and because before the season, I had said they're going to be 8-4. And they called me after the BYU loss. Asked if I wanted to change my thought on it. I said, no, they're still going to be 8-4. Ajay, you realize that they got to play Fresno, Wyoming, Boise, New Mexico. Yeah, they're going to win all 4. You're telling me a team that just got roughshotted by Air Force and BYU is going to be 8-4 at the end of the year? Yeah. And I still think that. I still think that they can beat Wyoming. No Sean Chambers. And Tyler Vanderwaal's a better... I mean, he's an okay quarterback. He's not better than Sean Chambers. I think they can get to Tyler. I think they can make Tyler make some bad decisions. When they need Tipa back, Tipa is to be determined. He was asked about it today, said nothing on it, won't say anything on it. You know the role there. But I think Tipa can come back and make a huge presence in that regard. Boise's obviously a tough football team, but they're not like they were last year. And I think our offense is better than they've looked. And I think at home helps us out a lot. I think we beat Boise and New Mexico's a runaway. I think we finish 8-4. I don't know if we end up being the Mountain West Conference Championship because of that tiebreaker, and it's really, when I look at it, it doesn't favor us not too well. We need Air Force to lose at Wyoming, or excuse me, a home against Wyoming at the end of the season. I don't see it happening either, so we'll see.
I'm trying to remember what my preseason predictions were. I think I was I can't remember if I was at 8-4 or 7-5. I think I was more in the 7-5 category.
Yeah.
I was super concerned about on the road at San Diego State, on the road at Fresno. And let's step back for a moment. Utah State won both of those games.
Yeah, how about that? I didn't think... I mean, I knew Air Force would be tricky. I didn't think they were going to be that good.
Yeah, I thought Utah State could beat Air Force.
Look, that loss blew me more away than the BYU game for some reason. For some reason, I mean, you just knew BYU would come in here desperate, right? You knew coming in here after getting their butts handed to 2 years in a row, once here, once there, they're going to come back with a little bit something to prove. I didn't think we were going to get handled like that by Air Force. That scared me to death, man. Coming out of that game, that terrified me that happened to us.
All right, coming up next, let's hear from Coach Gary Anderson about some of those big stops down the stretch for USU. That defense will need to come up big again this next week and stopping a very prolific running attack from the Wyoming Cowboys. We'll hear from him and more reactions to what happened over the weekend for Utah State football, Utah State basketball. A reminder, Utah Jazz basketball is coming up a little bit later on tonight. Hey, how about on consecutive nights, a Utah team that we like to follow wins on a last-second three-point play? The Utah Jazz, Bojan Bogdanovic with the corner three to win, and then Dominic Eberle for the Utah State Aggies with the three-point field goal to win.
Eric, not to be dramatic, but if the Utah Jazz don't win tonight, I'm going to light some incense, put on the cranberries, prank call someone, and proceed to tell them about my time my ex-girlfriend Heather Lally dissed my frosted tips in front of everyone at Hoagie Yogi.
That message brought to you by Jimbo Rudding, Jimbo Slice. Oh, always good stuff pregame. All right, more from Gary Anderson in Utah State.
Maybe if Rudy has a sick block tonight, you could yell, "Oh my, he was trying to buy a bucket and Rudy just gave him the old 5-finger discount."
More about the Utah State Aggies coming up next.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Utah State's Dominic Eberle named as the Special Teams Player of the Week for the Mountain West Conference. He was a perfect 3 for 3 on his field goals, a perfect 4 for 4 on PATs. And Utah State needed every last one of his points that he was able to put on the board for him. A big field goal at the end to win it for Utah State. It was a moment that a lot of us have been kind of hoping for and waiting for with Dominic Eberle, to have a moment where a Utah State kicker would kick a field goal as time expired for the win. And, Ajay, it hasn't happened since 1998.
Who was the kicker?
Brad Bond.
And who did he do it against?
Who was it? I saw it. Was it New Mexico State?
Try again, one more time. Come on. Who did he do it against?
Colorado State.
North Texas.
North Texas.
How long was the field goal, Eric?
How long was the field goal?
Yeah. This one's a gimme. Come on.
Was it a 30-yarder?
It was. It was a 30-yarder.
Incidentally, Brad Bond was very much a part of recruiting Dominic Eberle to come to Utah State.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Dominic, good for him. I mean, he hadn't kicked in 2 weeks, and then you're like, hey, we need you to kick. And people talk about, even if they would have scored a touchdown, right? Those 2 field goals that he got earlier were humongous.
Yes.
One of them made it a 2-score game, and if he doesn't get that one, Utah State's probably out of this one in the 4th. And then the other one was to even cut it to 1. Like, those field goals were monstrous for the Aggies. And
he holds the all-time field goals made record for the Mountain West.
Sure does.
With still more games to play.
Yeah, he's not done yet either. That's what's crazy. Yeah, he's been phenomenal. Good for him. And, it's going to happen again, where they're going to need the field goal kicking to come through. I thought it would happen against Air Force, and it didn't. It certainly didn't happen against BYU, and so for them to be able to make something happen there, and for Eberle to be able to, I mean, you throw them on there, and it's not just about the kicker, but it's about the hold, it's about the protection as well. All that is a part of the package, and all that you got to give credit to everyone who is a part of that, and it's a great job to put it through. I know it's a chip shot, but those are usually the hardest ones to make.
There's a lot of concern about this Utah State team defensively, Ajay. The way they got blown up against Air Force, blown up against BYU. They didn't even look that particularly great against Nevada at times. And they're without David Woodward. They were without Tipa Naliai on Saturday. So the question is the depth and strength of this team going forward. How well will they do? But before we address that concern, Gary Anderson wanted to praise his defense for the way they came up tough in the 4th quarter against Fresno State.
Yeah, it's just, I'm just proud of those kids making those plays in that moment, right? You go for it on 4th down, and it's either going to be a good decision or a bad decision. There's no either way around it, right? It's going to be one of the two. And obviously we didn't get it, so it was a bad decision on my part. And then those kids had to step up and make a play. And I thought we strung out the fly sweep there in a good spot and allowed Shaq to be able to get physical and make a nice physical tackle and make good decisions on the sidelines, which was great to see. And then Jacoby made a fantastic play. He split the offensive line in half that we're trying to take advantage of and block him in that situation, and he snapped through there and made a play. And I thought the penetration from the other guys was pretty good. So, players make plays, players win games in those settings, in those situations, and the defense did not play well. They played poor, and we have to get better in that situation. They all know it. We all know it. But they didn't ever lay down or quit or say, woe is me. They kept on battling, and their eyes were right, and they kept fighting to make plays, and they had an opportunity to do it, and they did it. So, it's awesome to see when your back's up against the wall and it hasn't gone your way that those kids still fight. And I think it just shows how much they care about each other and they care about the university, and they're going to keep on playing regardless of what happens. And, we've been through that. We've been some ups and downs all year. It's like I say in those conference games, defense found a way to get us through the first 3 wins, and special teams and offense didn't play poorly all the time, but didn't play as well as they wanted to, obviously, which we know, and we can go back and look at all those things. But the crew found a way. When they had to run the ball against Colorado State, we handed the ball off to Gerald 36 times for 170 whatever yards it was, and the defense played well. And Woody grabs the ball out of a guy's hands and scores a touchdown. It's crazy how some of those things have happened in these league games, and this game was no different. The offense was powerful. They moved the ball down the field. They scored when they needed to. Were they perfect? Absolutely not. The defense was, like we've talked about, we'll need to improve to help us continue to go. But when it had to happen, they did it. Here we sit, 4-1 in league play, and it's awesome to see them keep fighting and battling for themselves and for their school, and it means a lot to me as a coach to see them keep on fighting.
And they did. I mean, as we read some of the responses back, the team did show a little more grit or spine, as someone put it, in the game. They were a little more physical. They didn't lay down. They did have some problems. They made some adjustments, though, with some personnel in the second half that in the end started to pay some dividends. And so Are there more problems to come? Maybe, because you've lost a defensive leader that just is really hard to replace. Yes. How long is Tipanaliai out? We don't know. That could be a real problem. But if the Utah State offense can play like they did, they'll still be in every game that they play here on out.
Yeah. Again, their offense, but it's got to be consistent, right? I mean, look, Wyoming's going to bruise you to death. They're another team, Eric, who are more than happy to chew off 6.5 minutes off the clock, 7 minutes off the clock, and get a field goal out of it. They're thrilled with that because they're so confident in their defense that they're so physical, they can shut you down. I mean, they'll eat that clock like they did it to Boise State. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Wyoming and Boise had like one possession each in the second quarter or something. I mean, both teams ate the clock. And I think that's what it came down to. And finally, Boise scored within the 2-minute time to end the half. But Wyoming will limit you. They'll limit you. And look, they know the offense too.
Speaking of time of possession, Utah State did much better.
Yes.
This last week. Better sustained drives. It was a little out of whack in the first half, but it totally flipped. And it didn't become even. Fresno State still had an advantage, but Utah State did much better with sustained drives, holding onto the ball, giving their defense rest on the sidelines. That certainly helped late in the fourth quarter when they needed to make big stops. They weren't totally gassed. They were able to still get in there and have some physical play because they weren't on the field forever and were asked to do more than they needed to. Yeah. So the offensive play helped the defense in a lot of ways as well. All right, coming up next here in the Full Court Press, some additional thoughts about what happened with Utah State. And looking at the Utah Jazz, who are in action tonight at the Golden State Warriors, a little bit later game, but Jazz had some big games for them over the last few days. We'll talk about that next on the Full Court Press.
The Aggies are number one here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen. Last thing about the Utah State football game on Saturday was third down efficiency was much better for USU, about 50% compared to where they've been. But the third down defense, still problematic. Fresno was 7 of 11 on third downs.
Yeah, and all those were third and longs, too.
They had them in third and long situations quite a bit, but they converted. Not just to the first down marker, but usually got a lot of extra yards.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of yards after. And some of those were even just flat-out runs, man. Some of those were just Reyna just trying to find something out of nothing. And, yeah, that's terrifying to me, to be honest with you, because Air Force was in that similar situation. If they were in a 3rd and 12, dude, you knew it was coming. You knew that they're going to throw some stupid halfback dive and just classic 1992 football stuff. And gained 15, 16 yards on it. It was incredible, man. And Fresno is not as near as talented as Air Force, if I dare say. And yet they were doing that to Utah State. That's got to get fixed, and fixed in a hurry.
Utah Jazz, they're in action tonight. They are at the Golden State Warriors, who are not nearly the team that we thought they'd be at this point in the season. Although it does look like Draymond Green could be available tonight after missing some games with a finger injury, but they're much different team. They've only won 2 games. Jazz coming off of that dramatic win over the Milwaukee Bucks. 2 great wins by the Jazz last week over against the top teams in the East.
Yep.
Taking down the Sixers and the Bucks.
Yeah, that Bucks game, how about that? And out of all the people, they find Bogdanovic in the corner, and he had a great look at the three. In fact, Colin, almost when he shot it, you knew it was going in, right?
Well, did you see on the replay? I didn't catch it in real time, but on the replay, you see Joe Ingles inbound the ball to Boyan, and as Boyan's going to the corner, before the shot's even up, Joe Ingles is raising his arms as the signal a 3-point shot, and he just held it there during the whole celebration.
Almost like he made the shot. He's like, yeah,
it's going.
Made the pass, baby.
But Boyan Bogdanovic, I mean, he's averaging 22 points,
he's been good,
4.5 rebounds, 2 assists. He's been superb.
Yeah. No, look, when this team is rolling offensively, they get going defensively. I thought the looks for Gobert have been there too. He's getting the touches that he asked for. So that helps a lot. Hey, how about really
And
quickly?
Connolly it's looking like he's more in the flow too.
Yeah, he looks like he's finally starting to feel comfortable, doesn't he? How about the news on Gordon Hayward, the fractured left hand?
I feel bad.
I feel really bad.
I feel
for
bad
that
for
guy.
Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
He was having a really good year.
Yeah, averaging 20-something points. I mean, he was shooting well.
He looked comfortable in the system. Probably having Kyrie Irving out of the mix made a big difference for Gordon Hayward.
Yeah,
and Boston's had a really good year, and he was a big part of that.
Hey, final thought tonight, not to be dramatic, but if Utah State or Utah Jazz don't win tonight, I'm going to staple a picture of Reese Witherspoon's face on a pumpkin and passionately make out with it until I'm going to score it out at Arby's.
Oh, my gosh. Oh. Jimbo Slice.
My man, we got to get him on.